screen here. First thing I wanted to just touch on was that I have thrown up those videos. If you didn't get the memo, if you didn't get the announcement, the videos are on Blackboard. They are move them. They're under the assignment part, so assignment tutorial part 1 and 2, and then the parametrics part 1 and 2. So the parametric window tutorial for part 1 there, I think was pretty straightforward. Part 2, there's a little bit more complexity. So let me know if you've got questions. Tomorrow in class is probably the safest way, but if you do have questions about those tutorials, getting that window in there, it's kind of nice bucket of work just to get that window up to speed. And then today, like I said, we'll do a little stair tutorial here on the left. I've just got the modeled version of the what I'll say is the final stair. So for us, we're going to kind of do what I would say is a pretty conventional stair. And I don't know why it's not letting me. Move this out of the way. Thank you, Microsoft Teams. There we go. I just wanted to make it full screen for us so we can see everything. So eventually, this is where we want to get to. It's not a super complicated stair, but it is just a kind of precast stair set up in our model. I can show you in plan, but you should have seen in the kind of reference set of drawings here for our best in town office building. So we've got a stair that is turning back on itself. I can see already a small challenge here. I got a column here. Just delete that. It's a switchback stair, so it comes back in on itself. And I'll show you a little bit of the tool. If you haven't seen this before, we'll do it today in class. And if you got any questions, we can, of course, go through them. This is just a typical switchback stair. It's pretty common in architecture. So we've got, if you're going to be drawing this, I would say it's a very, very standard stair. There's a couple of stair landings here. So we've got landing 1. And then there's a landing built into the actual stair itself. And we'll go through how to kind of make these components today. But what I really wanted to start with was I'll show you this, and then in plan what this looks like. You may have already seen in our example reference drawings for our PDF. And what we'll do now is why don't we just jump into a kind of starting point. So you're welcome to either follow along with me, or just watch, or just listen, or come back to the video and check it out there. So I'm going to start with a blank template rather than working directly in our model today, just so you can see some of the other tools. And I thought that might be helpful. So what I want you to do is fire up your Revit. You can either start it if you've already got the office model started, that's totally cool. But what I'd like to do is start in a kind of fresh template just for today. So now Revit open. We'll just do a little new architectural template project here. So we're just going to open up a new model here, and it'd be great if hopefully you've got this architectural template. If not, we'll make it work. Architectural template. This is the version of Revit that I have downloaded straight from Autodesk. So if you have a slightly different version, it should be okay. But I have seen some challenges with some of the other. There's been one circumstance so far with if you don't have this architectural template, tell me. And I've seen some. Should be okay, but architectural template will be the preferred one here. So click on architectural template. We should see create new project. Hit that little OK button, and we should see our brand new view here. So we're going to open up in our kind of viewing area. We've got our drawing area. We've got just those 4 elevation markers. They're standard. They're brought in. We haven't done anything. This is baked into the overall template itself. And now what we'll do is we'll just start thinking about what do we need to get done. We're trying to get a stair in here. And for us, like with all of the tools in Revit, we've got in the architecture tab, we're going to look for the circulation panel here. So the circulation panel is just this little zone here. I don't have anything to highlight it, but right in the middle of my kind of ribbon here, And we'll see railing, ramp, and stair. So the stair tool is its own tool. If you just kind of hover over it there, we've got gonna add a stair to the model. Fairly straightforward. The stair tool itself is probably one of the most complicated pieces of Revit. So what we're going to do in our intermediate level class is we're going to get kind of organized for the best in town office project, but we're going to use a default stair. We're going to use lots of the default tools, and we're not going to do too much customization. That customization is what leads us down the kind of rabbit hole of questions and there's lots to unpack in a stair tutorial, but I'd like to do as much as we can in 1 hour. And then what we can do is we're going to try our best to get it to look like what we've got in the best in town office building. But in future classes, we would expand on lots of these ideas. So I encourage us to kind of explore the tool. But I think that for this class, we're going to try and get a stair into the drawings. And I mean that in the best possible way. So stairs, like all components of architecture, there are pieces that can be really complicated. The stair is made up of many, many, many parts. So unlike a wall or window or door, there are a lot more levers that we can kind of pull. So levers, things that we can change, constraints we can modify, and that can lead us again down that rabbit hole. And I'll point you to the Balkan architect. He said he's got 5 hours of just stair tutorials. Don't let that, don't panic. We're going to do very simple stair and we'll get there. So back to the tool itself. Let's just look at this. We've got, again, railing, ramp, stair. For us, we're going to start. I just want to show you where this stair tool is. You don't have to click anything yet. One of the first things we need to set up are the actual levels. So stairs, of course, are going from level to level. And if you're in the template file, I'd like you to open up one of the elevation views. So it doesn't matter which one. We're just trying to get to look at the levels itself. So if we just open up east or north, whichever one. So open up north here. Let's double click that. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, scroll wheel, zoom out a little bit with our scroll wheel. We can see we've got level 0 is 0. And then the next level above is currently 4 meters. And this is really the starting point for how we're going to figure out, figure out how high our stair needs to travel, right? So lots of automation in the stair tool, lots of power in the stair tool to get the things that when we're drawing in CAD, if we like to draw in AutoCAD, stairs can take a long time. The power of Revit is that it's going to automate a lot of the calculations that we used to have to make for things like riser height, tread depth, overall runs. All of the complexity of stairs are really well automated inside of the Revit tool here. So that being said, first thing we're going to want to do is set up our level. So for us, why don't we just start, and I'm just going to keep it the same as our, keep it the same as our best in town office example. And I'm just going to modify our level here to be 4,500. So it's going to jump in here. We can remember there's a couple different ways we can change this level. I just hover over, I'm going to click on level 1. Change this to 4,500, just so we can keep some of the math similar. So when we're going to do our best in town office stair, we can come back to this and think about it. Cool, everybody's cool. So levels. First step, complete. Let's go back to our floor plan. So come over here to the project browser, double click on level 0. There are different ways to do this. I just want to show us the tool. So we don't have any context in our version yet, but I'd like us just to start looking at the tool without any sort of floor context per se. Let's go ahead and do that. We're back in our architecture ribbon, and we're going to come over here to the circulation panel and click on that little stair button. So if we click on that little stair button, we're going to see a kind of series of additional menus and tools that populate on the screen. It's quite a bit here. So usually what I do is I walk through all of the tools. I've been watching myself some tutorials to try and remember how if this is best taught. So I'm trying to do it slightly differently today. We'll see how that goes. So you'll see here the run. Get out of here. Don't want that. Run is just up here. It should be automatically selected. And then we've got a little straight in here. And that's all good. So don't touch any of that. Leave it for now. In the properties panel, properties palette, excuse me, the properties palette, we'll see we've got the type selector with our little drop-down menu here. So this is going to give us the type of stair that we'd like to draw today or model today. And if you just click down, you should see a couple of different types. If you'd like to follow along exactly with me, I welcome you to. But if you do want to see other types, you'll have different versions of similar stairs, we'll say. The tool mostly operates the same. There will be small changes based on which type of stair that you select. For us, in the Best in Town office, we are using a precast stair. This is, again, it's fully baked in. You should see this in the architectural template. I have not added this. This is just a baked in default stair. If we just drop that down and click, we're going to see the precast stair kind of populate here. First thing I wanted to do is just cover a couple of the constraints. So these are the rules for how we're going to build the stair. So the constraints over here on the left in our properties palette, we've got the base level. That's where the stair is going to start. Right? So very similar to our walls, except it's a stair. So where are we going to start our stair? And in this case, we're starting at level 0 and we're going up to level 1. So I think that that could be something to remember, is that we're going to go from the basement or whatever level you're on up, right? You're not going down, we're going up. So one thing just to keep in mind as we do this, the base offset, for whatever reason, if you've got a different starting level, we can adjust that base offset to be above that base level. We're not going to touch that right now. Our example project is still just going to be from level to the next level. And then the top level. So what are the starting constraints for us? We've got a starting level and then a top level. For us, that's just going to be level 0 and level 1. And you can see here we've got the stair height kind of grayed out. And that's Revit letting us know that we've got 4,500 millimeters of total stair height. So we know that because that's set in our levels. So for instance, you don't have to follow along here, but if I just jump over, I'm not going to be able to edit it. Okay, I won't do that right now. So if I had changed that level before we started to 4,000 instead of 4,500, we would see this desired stair height modify. Again, if we come down just a little bit further in our properties palette here, we'll see the desired number of risers. So risers are the kind of vertical elements, so the kind of steps up. So how do we get from level 0 up to level 1? It's important to remember that we can modify this. I would say within reason, we want to be careful with how many, what the overall riser height is. So of course, if we've got any code requirements, so the OBC has requirements, the Ontario Building Code has requirements for the maximum riser heights for things like fire exits, convenience stairs. We've got to set a kind of maximum riser height. So that, again, that's the vertical dimension of each independent stair. Just something to keep in mind, because if I did, let's say if I modify this, I'm like, oh no, I don't have enough space for 27 risers. If I just, say I want to make this, let's do something that makes sense. 16, say I want to cut it in almost half. If I type 16 in here, I'm going to hit apply, and we've got we'll get an error. So if we were to measure this, you can see here the actual riser height has been modified in our properties palette over here on the left to 281 millimeters, which is 28 centimeters. It's far too high for a standard stair, but this is really baked in to that default stair that's kind of preset in the family itself. And Revit will automatically give us a warning to say, the maximum riser height that you've set, that we've set, that the family experiences is higher than what's set in the stair type. So we can actually, you're working on a project and you're working with people that are on the same team. You can set this maximum riser height across the whole office, say, for instance, so that nobody goes beyond what the OBC, the Ontario Building Code, states, right? So this kind of thing of protecting. Because what will happen is in plan, this stair won't look any different from how you would draw a stair in AutoCAD. Does all the calculations, does all the stuff. But if we were to go to section, you would see, oh, there's something wrong with the riser height. So we want to keep that riser height. Probably no, I have to check the code, and you should check the code if you're in an office. It does change sometimes. I believe it's 185 millimeters. So 185 millimeters is should be around our maximum. So let's just hit cancel here. So we don't want to do that. So we can see here with our desired number of risers, Revit has said, okay, you've got 27 risers, 27 little vertical bits of stair. And they're going to take that 4,500 millimeters for our level 1 to level 0 or level 0 to level 1, and we're going to split it. So 4,500 divided by 27, and suddenly that's how we get this 166.7. Make sense? And then the other thing is that we can change is the actual tread depth. And the tread depth is the overall space where your foot goes, right? So your foot, as you're coming up the stair, you want to create space for your feet for people to walk up the stairs. All different studies you can do if you want to look at the overall tread depth of each individual tread as they're going up the stair and make sure that it's comfortable. So there's different styles of stairs. So certainly if you've ever been in a building and you're going down a fire stair, it can be very different than going up what we call a convenience stair. They should be more comfortable. So a convenience stair is something that somebody would take that's meant to be more, I say comfortable, but just more generous in terms of the space, right? So you might see something like a 300 millimeter tread depth here rather than this 250. Fire stairs, we're trying to really keep them efficient. We want to keep them as efficient as possible for us, for the best in town here. We're going to try and keep it as efficient as possible. And what I'll do is I'll provide the risers and the tread depth. I'll see if I can post a little screenshot for us of the best in town variety. But for now, why don't we just jump into the tool? So I'm going to come back in here, make sure we got our run on. So I might have messed this up there a little bit. So come back in, click the run command here. So we've got modify stair and our green means go. So run straight. Let's just find somewhere. We should be on level 0 in our floor plan. And click somewhere on the screen. So just click once. And stair is too short. So obviously the stair is too short. But if we just kind of slowly start to drag, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We slowly start to drag out our stair. We could see this wonderful little piece of text below the stair that's giving us 4 risers have been created and 23 are remaining. So this is that part of giving a preview of the automation of how the stair is being generated in Revit. It's doing everything, all those calculations, simply, straightforwardly, quickly. We don't have to think about it. We're just setting the levels and drawing the stair, and it's obeying us. We are the in command here. So if I just start to drag over a little bit, we can see that those numbers, 10 risers created, 17 remaining. So for us, why don't we just move this all the way up to about midway? So let's do 13 or so risers created and 14 remaining. And then what happens is if we just click once on us to, we're going to do what's called a switchback stair. So we're going to click once and we should see the first little bit of our stair created. That's just the first little piece. So now what we can do, we're going to do a little switchback, is if I just hover around here, we can see that there's a little dashed line that emerges. And this is going to be the switchback part. So if I just kind of come down here, click again, and drag back, what we can do is drag that out, excuse me, and then click once more. You get a little warning. That's okay. We're going to go through this. A little warning says a notch can only be used when the run end is coplanar with the landing tread. Don't worry about that for now. This is, again, stairs can be pretty complicated. Just close that warning for now. We don't care about that in this instance right now. Hit that little X, and now we have the starting point of our stair. So I think if we just come over to populate a little 3D view here, populate a little 3D view over here, if we click our default 3D view, we should start to see something like this, right? Pretty narrow, just hanging out. It's just a little fire stair, but all of this has been modeled. It's all been created because of the first constraints that we set. We've got the height, we've got the tread, and we've got the riser has been automatically calculated because of that level change. Hopefully it looks something like this. And if not, check the video out. And if you got more questions, then we can answer them tomorrow in class. So, one thing I should mention is I did see this. This was a new tool for me, funnily enough, as I was learning how to teach this, is that if you say, for instance, you've drawn the stair the wrong orientation, what we can do is we can actually come up here to our little tools panel inside of our modify ribbon and hit this little flip button. We're going to end up with the same notch join error. That's okay. So I just want to check on if somebody left a note here. I'm going to do it on my phone. So, it just says recording has started. Perfect. So that little flip button can be pretty handy, right? So you're going to get that error again, but it's just flipping the kind of direction of which side the stair is going to sit on. One of the other tools here is we can look at the railing. So the railing can also be part of the stair. So if we come back in here and just click this little railing tool, we've got a couple different options here. So the railing is, of course, the kind of guide as we get down the stairs. And again, this is something that, because it is all automated, it can be really helpful for us to either set it now or we can modify it later. And this is setting up the railing itself. We can either set it on what's called the tread. So the tread is going to be our kind of top topology, or top of the stair itself, or on the stringer itself. So this stair, unfortunately, is not a great example for this. So the stringer are the guides of structure beside the treads. Maybe I can find an example for us and we can talk about that briefly. But let's just do this super quick. So there's a default railing. What we can do is if we just drop that down, there's a couple different types of railings we can use. You can use a pipe, 900 millimeters, 1100 millimeters. So for us, this is back to our code situation. We need to make sure that our guards are going to be the appropriate height above the stair. So why don't we just give this a shot? I'm just going to do 900 millimeter. Let's just do 900 millimeter and hit OK. Unfortunately, you don't see a preview here. I really wish that Revit did this for us so we could kind of see, this is what the 900 millimeter tread is. I was trying to find a version if there was a way to get a kind of preview, but unfortunately it looks like if you build it, you can modify it, but there isn't a way to kind of preview what you're about to do. So I'll show you what that looks like if we just hit OK here. No preview. What have I done? Nothing has happened. That's okay. This is unfortunately, how the software is currently organized. Why don't we just go ahead and let's just finish this stair and hit this little check mark. And what we can do is see what we get. So hit that little check mark. Perfect. So you'll see this error. So this error is because, like I was saying, we don't have a stringer in this situation. That's okay. It's going to be placed on the tread. This is much like what would happen in a precast stair is there's no stringer adjacent, so it's placing it on the tread. That's okay. So we'll just hit that little X button, no problem. What a wonderful stair. So hopefully you guys got that far. And if not, that's okay too. So what we've got is if I jump back to our level 0 here, we should see the stair in plan. All right, so we've got some things happening in plan. So the graphics of this, if you've never seen this before, the graphics of this are that we're kind of cutting the plane of our current view at it's either 1200 or 1500 millimeters. And what we're looking at here is the stair from that height. And then anything above us is shown dashed, right? So the idea here is that we are at the kind of main level, at level 0, and anything above us is shown dashed. So if we jump up to level 1 here, so this is the level above, we can see the whole stair. The whole stair is shown because we're looking at it from all the way up top. Just jump back here to the 3D super quick, just to remember all our fun things, right? So hopefully you've got something like this. If not, check out the video. One thing that I forgot to mention, and I'm gonna do this again just so that we can make sure that everybody can see this, is there are a couple ways of modifying the overall width of our stairs. So say after you've drawn your stair, you want to make some modifications, and certainly we can do that. I would argue that there's all sorts of different perspectives when you're working in Revit. Usually, I'm going to say this from my experience, I find it simpler if something that I've drawn in or modeled inside of Revit I'm going to say isn't cooperating the way that I want it to. Unfortunately, I just delete it and start over. I realize that's not ideal. It's probably not what you want to hear, but it's usually what I do. I know that lots of colleagues will say, don't do that, just modify what you've got. So I'm going to show you that way rather than just start over. So what we can do is say we wanted to modify the overall width of our stair. What we can do is we can jump back down to level 0 here. And we're going to click on our stair itself. So what you'll notice is that Revit has now created, using the stair tool, has created a kind of series of components of the family. So if I click on the railing here, that's just the railing. I haven't actually clicked on the stair. So just something to be mindful of is that there's this railing, there's the railing on the inside, and then there's the stair itself. So just be mindful of there's all these different components. I'll do the same thing in 3D just so you can kind of see what I'm selecting. So even though we use that one stair tool to start, it is breaking up the the Revit components into constituent parts of the stair. So you can see here if I just hover, I've got just the railing. So this allows for some modification, some customization. So certainly what we can do is, if I wanted to, I can modify pieces of our stair. They don't need to all be the same railing, for instance. So this is great in some respects. It's challenging in others because it means now you got to come back. And if you were to change these pieces, you can do it, but it's going to take a little bit more time than just starting, like I said, from scratch. So that being said, if we do want to modify the stair itself, the actual dimensions of our stair, what we can do is make sure we're clicking on the precast stair. You should see, if I hover over, you'll see a couple things I'm just hovering right now. On the bottom left there, we can see stairs, precast stair. So bottom left of my screen here, if it's not too small for us. And then if I actually click, we'll see in the properties palette, this precast stair has emerged. So you will notice that we can still modify some of these things. So why don't we just try and change one of these things? So I'm going to try and change the base offset here. So let's just go ahead and do that. I'm just going to change this to, let's call it 200 millimeters. So I'm just going to change this super quick. And we should see, did anything happen? Maybe it wasn't drastic enough of a change. So what I'll do is I'll just check it out in our east elevation here. So yep, so you can see, you almost didn't see it, right? It happened so quickly. That stair has now all very quickly been updated to reflect that very small, but if you were drawing this by hand or in Revit, that's a lot of extra drawing to do. So we've done it with literally just giving some instruction to Revit to say, we'll move the base offset up by 200. I'm going to undo that, but just so you can see the power here. So let's make that 0 again. We should see that jump down. So all of that math quickly done in no time, right? Let's jump back to our level 0 here. So if I click on, so you can change certain things. We can change the kind of elevation, starting points and end points of the stair, but we can't change so much everything. So one thing that maybe you want to change is the overall width of our stair. So maybe we want to change it. I actually think we set it at 1,000, so we can change that. But you can see right now we can't change it until we actually go into the edit command. So what we'll do is I clicked off, double tap to escape. What we're going to do is click on the stair itself and come up here to our little modify ribbon in our little edit panel. So let's hit edit stairs, and we're going to come back into this more minimal setup, right? So more minimal setup. It's if I was to jump to 3D, I'll just show you what this looks like in 3D. We're back to our kind of very fundamental view of the stair. There's no railings, there's none of that stuff. So for instance, if we wanted to change something like the overall width, what we would do is we're going to click on the stair itself. We're going to click on the stair itself, and you can see that there are these little grabs here, these little grab points. And a couple ways we can change this is if we're going to change something like the width of the stair, what we can do is either, actually, let's do all three. So there's a couple different versions here. Some people might want to just quickly model this. We're going to click, hold, and drag it out, right? So we can change different portions of the stair in terms of their width. We do the same thing the other side, right? Going to give me a warning. This is why, like I was saying, sometimes honestly, sometimes I just delete and restart. So landing depth is less than the run width. So pretty good. That's giving us some code considerations. So we typically would love to see the overall width of our stair matches the landing, right? So this is our landing component. We would want these things to be equal because if we're coming up a stair, we want to make sure we're giving room for people to kind of sneak by one another, right? So we don't want to end up with a kind of bottleneck over here on the right on our little landing. So I'm gonna unclick this. But what we can do is, so that all being said, what we can do is we've now set a couple of these pretty vague on the pretty not super accurate 1249.8. So I tend not to use the drags, but I think that it's good just for the shape handle, just to kind of modify these and just to see what's going on. So if I click again and drag, I can drag that out, and we're just slowly moving pieces around to kind of make our stair work. So if I jump back to our 3D view, pretty hard to see that these modifications have changed, but they have, I promise you. So they've changed a little bit. No dimensions. I'm just kind of orbiting here. Oh, there we go. 1249.8. So something to see that our modification has changed. The overall stair. Let's go back to level 0 here. And as a second way to kind of set these, My preferred option is typically either we click on our run, so our kind of first run here, or excuse me, that's our second run. We'll click here and we can actually just, much like our dimension tool, we can just modify this and say, type in here 1100, hit enter. We should see it just shrink a little bit. Similarly, jump over here, click our little 1500 here, type 1100, hit enter. Should be good to go. Last one, 1356.8, 1100, hit enter. Should be good to go. I would say some more annoying things, but things that you might notice is that now the kind of in between this zone from the interior of our tread to the interior of our tread has grown, which might be fine, or you might want to change that. I'm just realizing now, I think the easiest way to do that, you can actually select our little piece here. So the way that I did that was I'm just dragging from top left to bottom right over the stair tread, and we can actually move the whole stair tread just a little bit south, or we can change the overall dimension here. So I'm going to go ahead and it's going to move this a little bit south. So come up to our modify panel, click once, and we can click somewhere where you can kind of see a snap. Click once and you can just move it down a little bit. And you can see that space between the stair has now condensed a little bit, right? Different way if you're not happy with that version. I always like to keep round numbers in the drawings as best as we can. Sometimes it's not possible, but so you can see this 2383. If we just set that to 2400, we should see some nice round numbers everywhere. You can see here because we've gone back in and we've edited the stair, we haven't started from scratch, we've lost some of the tools. So if we look up at the tools panel in our modify ribbon, you'll see up here on the right here, we used to be able to do certain things like change the railing. And now, because we've already set the railing, we can't do that. So this comes back to the philosophy of, do I restart the stair or do I just keep trying to modify things? Again, it's just a philosophical difference. If you would rather restart, try it out, whatever works for you. Like I said, some colleagues start over from scratch and some colleagues will say, no, keep everything and modify it. So what we can do now is we've kind of reset some of these things. And what we can do is just hit the checkmark tool here, checkmark to finish the sketch. Everything's still looking good. No errors. We're looking all right. So jump back to 3D here. Let's see what we got. So you can see that even though we've changed the overall width of the stair, that those railings that we set just before we made some of these edits have maintained their, I'm going to say integrity. They are still there, right? So again, we've now got to create the change. If we would like to change these railings, we've kind of come back in and change them independent of the overall stair tool. Just one thing to remember. So we got a couple different options. Check out what 1100 looks like. Slightly higher for our guards. So if we remember that guards need to be 1100 or 1070, right? So just be mindful of that. Stairs have a slightly different calculation for how high they need to be as we're kind of walking up adjacent to them, but 1100 is a safe bet. So if we were to just change this to 1100 here. So that is part of the stair. I think the next piece that we want to make sure that we've got in here is, one thing I should probably cover is how to move the overall stair. So this is something that can get a little bit tricky, is now that we've got the kind of what I would say is a finished model of a single story of a switchback stair, maybe it's in the wrong place, right? So maybe it's in the wrong place. Again, we can restart or we can move the stair. So if I was just to jump back to level 0 here, what we can do is we can select the entire stair. So again, make sure we're selecting everything. I'm gonna just drag a little window here, and we've selected the entire stair. And say, for instance, we wanted to move this somewhere else. We've got some things in the way, or we put it in the wrong spot. We can either restart, or we can kind of come up here to our little move command. So we're going to click our move command. And the stair is now all highlighted, the railings and the stair itself. And now we can just click and move it. Just so you know, you can click and move it around. It can be super helpful. Sometimes, stairs again, super tricky. We can't, for instance, just take um, a piece of this. Oh, we can. I was going to say we can't just move a piece of it. You see that the whole stair moves. In my head, you had to select everything, but I guess you can just select a piece. Um, what's next? So why don't we go ahead? Why don't we go ahead and what we would eventually need to do is have a floor for us to tie these things into. So why don't we look at that, and we'll create a couple floors. So the first thing we might want to do is have a starting floor, right? So let's just jump back to level 0 here. Oh, we're on level 0. You don't need to save it unless you'd like to. And let's just create a couple just generic floors for us to kind of tie into. So architecture, floor architectural, and let's just do, well, we don't really have anything great here, but let's just do a floor upper 160. Just use this floor upper 160. It doesn't really matter what floor you're using. I just want to show you a couple things here. So we'll generate one floor. Doesn't need to be any particular size, but let's just draw it little rectangles. Remember, in our draw panel, we're just going to draw a little rectangle, and click once, click twice, just a little floor. Just finish the sketch by clicking our little green check mark. Boom. We should see something like this, and this is our starting floor, right? So our starting floor, and if I just jump to 3D, we should see something like this, right? So we can see that the stair looks all right. Looks like it's a starting point here. No problem. And then we can just jump up to the second floor here, or level 1, I should say. Let's jump up to level 1. And where is our stair going? So it's hard to tell on this drawing. I think. Hard to tell. So let's just go ahead and we'll draw a floor somewhere. So let's draw a floor, architecture tab, architecture ribbon, floor, architectural. Just draw a little floor somewhere. Just something like this. Doesn't need to be the whole thing like our little basement floor there, but just hit check mark, finish the sketch. Let's just jump to 3D and see where I put that. Okay, I put it at the right side, so that's positive. So a couple things here. You might want to move the floor to your stair, or you might want to move your stair to the floor, right? So what we need to do is, if somebody's coming up these stairs, they're going to have a hard time, number one, hard time building this, but probably a harder time getting out in a fire, right? So we got to make sure that the stair is connected to the floor. You can even see in this situation, we've got a little built-in notch. And what I like to do is there's a couple different ways to do this. I'm just going to do the kind of simplest way, and let's show what that looks like. So we got to tie the stair to the floor. So for that, I'm going to actually move the entire stair into the floor, and then we'll do a small modification to the floor itself. Excuse me. And to do that, we'll just jump back to level 1 here. So for us, we're trying to tie this little piece of the top here into the overall floor itself, the floor assembly. Apologies, guys. I'm going to have to just run and get the door, unfortunately. So give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Sorry about that, guys. Back in 30 seconds. Hopefully we didn't get too distracted. So we're going to try and move the overall stair into the floor. So let's come back to our modify panel here. Click move. And we're just going to drag this. You should see it highlight horizontal and near us. We should see it highlight. Click. And if we jump to 3D, should see something like this, right? So that little notch, it's hard to see, but that little notch there is meant to tie into the overall structure, the overall structure of our floor. In this case, we've got a little concrete floor and we've got a precast stair, and they notch out the concrete and have a little support for our precast stair. Again, this is a very standard stair. This is it's not too much going on. In a future tutorial, I can do a version where we've got a slightly more complicated stair, and I'll show you what that looks like. But if we were to want to make some small modifications here, what we can do is, you know what? I think this is a good place to kind of stop for the stair. This is really all we need to get to for our best in town example. It's a relatively simple stair. I think it's a good way to kind of get introduced to the idea of building a stair. And I believe this is the exact version that we've got in best in town. Make sure we've got our levels set correctly. Check out the risers. We got to make sure that we've got our overall kind of stair fitting. If I jump up to level 1 here, so our stair should fit within our little concrete shear wall situation in our best in town example. But yeah, I think that that's probably good for now. Oh, you know what? Why don't we do one more thing? Let's draw a little section so you can see what this might look like in section. So if we remember how to draw sections a couple different ways, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here. But the section tool, there's a couple different ways to get that. We've got the quick access toolbar at the top here with our little section tool. Or we can go over here to the view ribbon, and we've got a little section tool here. So I just want to show you one thing. Click that, and if you remember, Revit's going to automatically kind of create this for us. But let's click once and click twice, and we'll cut a section through the stair, and I'll just show you some additional things here as we're trying to draw and model what the stair looks like. So remember that in Revit, we've just drawn this section, so we should see a new little menu pop up here, section 1. Over here, if we double click this, we should see our section. Magical, right? So as somebody who spent a number of years drawing stairs in AutoCAD, I think that when you can do things this quickly in Revit, you model them, you can change them. It makes it pretty simple to make modifications on the fly, and everything kind of updates simultaneously, which can be extremely powerful in the office. So why don't we, one thing that I was thinking that we should do, which might help us, you don't have to follow along with this. This is basically where we got to for our best in town example, but why don't I do it anyways? So say, for instance, we would like to have a little bit of an inset for our stair, right? So what we might want to do is move the stair over by 1. You know what? I'm gonna stop. Forget I said anything. Okay, that's it for today. Let's stop there. So apologies for getting confused there. So I think that that's a great place to start. If we've got, I'm just going to jump to the best in town reference model here. Oh, getting some messages. Hold on. Let's see what we got. So Forum is asking, are we using the same one? So what I'll do for him right now, why don't I just jump into the model that I've got for us, and then I'll just share with you what all the parameters are for that stair. Is that helpful? And then what we can do is in the video, I think it's helpful just for everybody, including the rest of our classmates here, for them to see what's going on. So great question for him. Thank you so much. Let's get into this. And so this is our best in town. And you can see here that it's going to be fairly similar to what we've just done. So this is, I've done a little section box. You guys don't need to know what that is, but yet. But one thing you'll notice is that it's fairly similar to what we've just done. And what I'll do right now is why don't I just hover over our stair and I'll give us a little click here. And we'll see, what do we have? It's pretty similar, right? So we've got the base level is going to be our basement level. The top level is going to be our main floor level. That means we've got 4,500, right? So we're going to pretty quickly see we've got 27 risers. We've got an actual riser height of 166.7. Pretty standard. We can see our precast stair. Hopefully you've got this inside of the Revit template. And if you don't, tell me and we can make arrangements to make sure you do have it. We can copy paste things over and that type of thing. So if you are not working in the architectural template, you should be. But if you're not, for whatever reason, you should be able to see this precast stair. So we're going to have we'll have the exact same stair preset families, the default families baked into that template. You can see here I've just selected precast stair. Again, whoops, I clicked off here. First thing, 27 desired number of risers, riser height 166.7, tread depth 250. It's exactly what we just did in our little test. The second thing for him you might be interested in is the railing. So I think this railing, 1100. So try and keep that 1100 railing. It's going to be, just part of it. So we've got that 1100 railing. And the last thing we might want to check, just because I know that you guys are perfectionists and you want to do exactly what is in the drawings, which is good. It's good practice. So what we can do is let's just jump to the main floor level and let's just check the risers here. So I'm going to jump to the main floor level. This is a kind of finished model, so don't fret too much about that. But some additional things we might want to look at. So I'm just looking at the plan here. And if we remember, we've got our little edit stairs tool up here. So if I just hit edit stairs, we can look at some of these other things. So you can see here it's a pretty even mix here. So on the left side, we're starting from the basement, right? So we've actually got, I think it's going to be 15 risers here on the left. Sorry, 14 risers, 15 treads. So 14 risers here on the left. Then a little landing, and then our second set. So our second set, we're going to have that total number of risers to match, the same as our exact prototype we just built there. The other thing you might be looking at is, well, how wide are the stairs? So I know Forum and I think yeah, sorry, it was for you. You guys were asking questions last week about the interior dimensions. I can see if I can provide those, and I'll re-upload the PDF with some of these dimensions. I hear you. I think that there should be some additional information in there, so I appreciate that. But one thing we might check out is the overall width. So how wide are the stairs? So for us, we've got 1500 millimeters, and let's just check the second one. Should be 1500 millimeters. So both are 1500. And let's just check our, landing, also 1500. So 1500, 1500, 1500, and precast stair, use the 1100 millimeter railing, and you should be in pretty good shape. And then the kind of middle zone here, if we do need to, remember, if we do want to modify the kind of how wide this little zone is in here between the edge of the inside face of the stringer and the inside face of the upper stringer, we can do that as well by either dragging these, right? Dragging our little shape handles, or typing up here in our 1500, right? So yeah, great question for him. Thank you so much for that. I think it's important. I'm just going to double check, make sure.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Thank you for asking the question. I think it's important just to come back to our reference example and make sure everything's cool. So we do have some dimensions. So hopefully you guys have these for the interior of our stair face. and then we can get started on that stair. I know, again, the stairs can be pretty complicated, so I appreciate everybody's patience as we build them. Come back in here, hit that little edit check mark, and should be good to go. So, so thanks, guys. Hopefully that was helpful. I'll pause here, and tomorrow we're going to continue. I think we're going to do windows tomorrow, maybe some doors, and we'll see how far we get in tomorrow's class. And if there are questions about the stairs, maybe we need to do a little review with anybody who missed today's sessions. I will remind everybody to check out the video. If you do have questions, comments, criticisms, let me know. And apologies, the arborist was here. If anybody's curious who's at the door, they're here to fix the tree in the back. So that all being said, thank you so much. We'll see you guys tomorrow. So we'll see you tomorrow at 1:30. So thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, Mike, tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.